Welcome back to Bay TV Life. I'm Susan Sikora. Well, in our next minutes, meet Alan Tripp. He has a recipe for success. You take computer high tech, add positive feedback, apply it to kids, and you have a program called SCORE. SCORE sprang from Alan's volunteer tutoring in East Palo Alto. Welcome. This is an interesting story.
Thank you very much.
Before we get to the story of how it started, are you getting results with it? You're teaching kids with computers basic things like what? Math?
Well, yeah, in fact, I even hesitate sometimes to use the word computer when I describe what we do because I think it sometimes gives people the wrong idea. We're using what we like to call a very powerful interactive curriculum, about 4,000 hours of instruction that can take people literally from learning their ABCs to advanced reading and writing.
Okay, now this is happening, is this in East Palo Alto?
No, this is, let's see.
You're all through the South Bay pretty much,
well,
right?
we're on the peninsula and in the East Bay, and this is our center over in Montclair.
Now, do you have one computer per kid? It looks like you do.
Yes, typically we do. And as you can see, there's a lot of activity in the center. The kids are working with this powerful interactive curriculum which adapts to them.
How many class size? Is it always one-on-one, or is that teacher dealing with how many kids? Because that's an issue right now in Oakland, as a matter of fact.
Exactly, yeah. Well, usually most of our centers have 15 learning stations and then 3 or 4 full-time academic coaches to work with the kids.
And there's how many kids?
15 at a time.
Okay, so 15, because there's only 15 computers, so there's 15 kids.
Right.
And 3 or 4 instructors. That's pretty good.
Yeah, and see, the thing is, we actually don't do it on a classroom basis. Kids come in on an unscheduled basis. They're already set up, they're already enrolled in the curriculum, and they work on their lessons a couple times a week to improve their skills.
So this works in conjunction with school?
Yes.
So if this little child, let's say who's throwing the ball, let's say he's learning algebra because he's advanced or something, then in other words, what? You can work with him on algebra, and it's after school hours?
Right, right. Most of our centers are open from 2 to 8 on the weekdays and then all day Saturday and Sunday.
Wow.
So it's very convenient. It's a great way to help your kid improve their skills so they can focus on higher level things at school. We're for all kinds of kids.
I was just going to ask you the next thing. Is this? I hope this isn't just something for the elite whose parents have a big checkbook and they can write big fancy checks, because this is expensive. I mean, this is probably what we should be looking at in classrooms right now. We're not, and I'm not sure we're that close to it in this day and age.
Well, yeah, I mean, it all depends on what you value. Our service is, I think, a great value. It's a $75 enrollment fee and approximately $74 a month for 2 visits a week. So compared to private tutoring, it's much less expensive.
Are there little scholarships available or anything?
Most of our centers have different kinds of scholarship programs available where we will ask schools or teachers to nominate kids that need help but couldn't afford to come to SCORE, and so we're happy to provide that.
That's good. And it's a mix of ages. You go from, is it 4 to 14?
Most of our kids are in the ages between 4 and 12.
Wow.
So it's a very, I mean, I'm glad you got to see the clip there because it gives you a little bit better idea. But what we're doing is we're not only helping the kids improve their skills through this powerful interactive curriculum, but we almost see that learning as a vehicle for other things that we teach kids. Our full-time academic coaches are excellent role models. Most of them, we have 13 centers here in the Bay Area, about 40 full-time coaches. Half of them are Stanford grads, a quarter of them are UC grads.
Now, were they trained as teachers, in other words? Did they go in for education, or what's their background? What's their qualification?
We do not seek people that have teaching credentials. Some of them do. We look for people who have excellent interpersonal skills and a lot of experience working with kids, and the kind of young adult that parents want their children to be exposed to.
But you don't eliminate teachers?
Oh, no, of course not, no.
Now, when they have this, first of all, let's get back just to that video for a second. The last shot I saw there was the little boy making a basket. Do you do sports too, or is that something else?
Well, I was just starting to say, you know, we think of this, the skill improvement almost as a vehicle for some of the other things we teach. One is we definitely work to establish strong role model relationships between our academic coaches and the kids, and that's a very powerful thing. Most of our parents say it's one of the most important things that they're getting out of the program. We also really focus on giving positive feedback and recognition. So when a child does well in a lesson, one of the ways that we recognize that is they get to shoot a basket, and if they make it, they get a token which they can then trade in for prizes at a later date.
Now, you don't do grades.
No.
And you don't do, you don't have any labels, like this is not a gifted child and that's not a challenged child or anything like that. Everybody's equal when they come in?
Yes, it's one of the remarkable things about SCORE compared to the classroom. that SCORE is very inclusive and no one gets labeled. Everyone comes in, they're enrolled in the system. The system assesses their strengths and weaknesses.
Now wait, the system, all these people or the computers or both? I mean, look, because these days machines are kind of evaluating things, and you come out with a little computer profile and there you are.
Well, in that case, when I said system, I actually did mean our computer-based system. As a child works with our system, they actually build up a whole history of what they're good at and what they're not so good at. And so it doesn't just take them through the same material in the same order. It adapts to them based on what they're good at and where they need help. If a child, for example, is having trouble with dividing fractions, they'll get additional instruction and get to work additional exercises.
That you don't use grades, does that take the pressure off? Is it? I mean, it makes it a different atmosphere than the classroom. Even though mom and dad may be saying, I've paid $74 a month for this, so I want you to pay attention.
Well, it's a night and day difference because it's in a lot of ways grades are almost a negative feedback mechanism. You're supposed to get an A. If you don't, it's negative. And at SCORE, we just have all these different ways of recognizing success. And because our curriculum adapts to the children, every child is able to make progress, and then we recognize that success.
So if a child comes in and he or she, let's say they're in the fourth grade, and they're having trouble reading, and maybe they're just about at the fourth grade level, but they're still struggling to keep up with the rest of the class. They're great in math. You're going to bag the math skills for them because they're doing okay in that, and you're going to concentrate just on reading.
Well, actually, we'll probably focus on math and reading.
Because he's good at math, and that'll...
Sure, we want to lead with the positive.
I see.
But also, we have found, I mean, that's a very typical situation with us. What happens is that when they're trying to work to improve the reading, they maybe the system will adjust to them such that they may be working at a grade level lower, but they don't even know it, right? And they're going to start to make incremental progress and start to feel that they can succeed. And changing the attitude about what they can do is probably the most important element for helping them progress.
When we come back, we're going to take a break, and when we come back, we'll talk more about this, because there was recently, a lot of people heard the story about how they were telling kids, if you spell something wrong, we'll tell you it's right so you'll feel good and all. A lot of people are getting crazy with self-esteem and positive feedback, telling mediocre kids they're doing brilliant things. We'll find out if that's what's going on here, and if it's not, how it's different, and if it's working when we come back. Being exposed to what they are. Let's talk about the feedback, because you say that if I bring a fourth grade reader in and they're not reading up to fourth grade level, you may be in the system feeding them third grade material, and now they succeed, so they feel good, so then they're ready to make the jump. Is that how it works?
Right. What you mentioned just before we went to the break is a very important topic right now in education. Feedback, positive feedback and reinforcement.
Yeah, this positive, the self-esteem everybody's getting crazy about. They're saying, my kid has great self-esteem, but he can't read.
Okay. Well, there's a right way and a wrong way to do that. And when a child actually does accomplish something and makes progress, and they know it, and then you recognize that, that's the right way.
All right, what do you do
if you just tell them
don't?
they're wonderful, and they haven't really done anything significant, then that's the wrong way.
All right, what do you do in the third case scenario, which is they fail? They do not handle the reading material that you're giving them.
You know, you may find it hard to believe, but we have more than 3,000 kids enrolled in our programs right now, and that just doesn't happen. I mean, our learning tool.
80% success with these kids.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we have dramatic improvement in skills. More importantly, changes in attitudes and beliefs about what they can accomplish in life. They learn about setting and achieving goals. And
But that sounds broad. Get a little more specific with me, if you will. Okay,
right,
you're talking to a former classroom teacher here, so I guess I'm a little threatened. All right. But in other words, if the child is not reading at that level, what you give him something and he doesn't do well, and you say that most of these kids are going to always be at 80% successful. What if he doesn't? What if he only reads 40% of what you've just fed him? What do you say to him?
Okay. Well, I can give you a specific answer to that. The curriculum that we're using comes to us from Simon & Schuster's Computer Curriculum Corporation division. It's a very powerful tool. It breaks the skills down into really small subsets, and we really haven't come across a kid who is unable to make step-by-step progress using this tool.
Are you saying you kind of reach down to the level that he succeeds at before he
what
go
happens,
on?
Let's say, with your example of a fourth grader who's reading at the third grade level. Well, They may start out reading at the 3rd grade level, but as they demonstrate mastery of all the skills at the 3rd grade level, we're going to start introducing additional skills that need to be mastered.
Is the difference, Alan, that you give them less at a time, a little bite at a time, as opposed to in the classroom they would be getting a chapter at a time or a new book at a time?
The difference is that it's individualized instruction, and it's very adaptive, and it's very efficient. So whereas in the classroom, if you were to go and observe a child in the classroom, a very small percentage of their time is spent in a very active learning mode. I mean, a lot of it is spent spacing out. In this situation, their concentration is focused. They're working on the things that they need to work on. They don't spend time reviewing things that they've already mastered.
How do you deal with teaching them about failure and rejection, or do you figure that's going to be dealt with elsewhere?
Well, a lot of the kids at our centers, in fact, more than half are probably A and B students. So we're much more than a place for remedial kids. And in school, they may not have experienced a challenging situation. At our center, what will happen is they may speed ahead. We often have kids that advance by as much as a half a grade level in 1 or 2 months.
Wow.
And what happens is they'll hit the wall, and they may be hitting the wall at a much younger age than they would have in the school system. Whereas a 4th grader who's great in math and just cruises through all the way until he gets to algebra in high school, and then all of a sudden, boom, he can't handle it. At our center, they'll meet with the challenge earlier on, and we'll be there to help them.
What happens, how long are these kids in the program, roughly?
Well, we started in '92, and we have members that have been with us since then.
Oh, so they can stay different lengths of time?
Oh, yeah.
So let's say the kid hits the wall. All right. Now it's time to go back to just the classroom without the supplementary score after school. Is he bored there?
Okay.
I mean, suppose the classroom isn't as bells and whistles, you know, all set up as you are, because that looks like a great place.
Yeah. Well, it is a great place. It's a really great place to help build kids' self-confidence and their sense of competence. And I think when they have that, when they have already experienced success in learning, when they go back into the classroom, instead of feeling intimidated or scared, they feel like, I know I can do this. And then they can turn their attention to a lot of the higher level things that are taught in the classroom, like working in groups or higher level writing skills. It's like once they know that they have the confidence that they know the grammar, they know the math facts, they can work on the...
Quickly, I've got about 30 seconds here.
Okay.
Is there parental involvement with this?
Yes, in a number of ways. Parents are invited to stay and observe how the children are working. Parents are a very important part of the feedback loop. We keep them informed as to how their children are making progress, and then they can reinforce that. That's very important.
While you're thinking that
it.
thought, let me show people where they can get in touch with you. Okay, you can call SCORE at the Advantage Center at 800-795-7267. That's 800-795-7267. I have time left only to thank you, Alan Tripp. It sounds like a dynamic program, something that probably the classroom should be keeping in touch with, and hopefully there'll be money to do this elsewhere.
Right.
I'm Susan Sikora, and I'll see you tomorrow night. Meanwhile, stay tuned now for a Bay TV News Update. Bye-bye.
From Bay TV, time now for a Bay TV News Update.